Haven't we all been there? You're in a high-stakes situation, you've got critical, complex information, and just one shot to get it right? For this explainer, we're going to use a medical exam as our little pressure cooker example. But trust me, the lessons we're about to unpack apply to pretty much any field where clarity is king. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to drop right into that high-stakes environment. Then, we'll play doctor and diagnose the common mistakes in a presentation. After that, we'll lay out a structured treatment plan, talk about what it means to sound like a pro, and finally, we'll see just how powerful real clarity can be. Okay, so picture this. You're a postgraduate medical student. You've got an examiner sitting right across from you, watching your every move. And you have to present a really complex patient history. Every single word counts. Your structure, your clarity, your confidence, it's all under the microscope. The pressure is just immense. You have all the data, you know all the facts. But the real test? It isn't just knowing the stuff. It's about weaving it all into a story that makes sense, that leads to a logical conclusion. And you only get one shot. There are no do-overs. Now let's look at the actual problem we're here to solve. This is a real snippet from a presentation. You hear things like lesion inside of right cheek, loosening of the teeth, and he used to take pan and gutka. I mean, yeah, the facts are technically in there somewhere, but they're a mess. They're jumbled, disorganized, and honestly, pretty confusing. This right here, this is what we need to fix. So just like a doctor looks for symptoms to diagnose an illness, we're going to diagnose this presentation. And it really comes down to two key symptoms. First, a flawed, confusing structure. And second, imprecise, kind of casual language. Let's break those down. The first symptom is what I'd call structural chaos. The intro is all over the place, the timeline of the illness is jumping back and forth, and super important risk factors, they're tossed in at the end like an afterthought. When you don't have a clear framework, your listener, whether that's your boss, a client, or a medical examiner, is going to be totally lost. And the second symptom is imprecise language. Just look at the difference here. Saying difficulty in opening the mouth is okay, but progressive trismus is precise, it's professional. And this isn't about using big words to sound smart. It's about using the right words to get a huge amount of information across quickly and without any confusion. For instance, let's just take that one word, trism. It means lockjaw. Now, in this patient's case, that's not just some random symptom. It's a huge red flag. It points toward how severe the disease is and where it might be spreading. So using that one word, well, it does a ton of heavy lifting for a knowledgeable audience. That's the power of being precise. Okay, we've diagnosed the problem. So what's the cure? Well, the solution is a clear, logical, step-by-step framework. This is what's going to transform that jumble of facts we heard into a narrative that's compelling, professional, and easy to follow. And here it is, the 6-step framework. Think of it like this. You start with the headline. Then you tell the main story, in order. After that, you run through a checklist of other body systems, you give the necessary context, and then bam, you deliver your summary or diagnosis. It's a structure that honestly works way beyond just medicine. Let's zoom in for a second on step 2, the story, because even this step has its own internal logic. You start with the main complaint, and you have to tell it chronologically. Only after you've established that timeline do you start layering in other things like associated symptoms. This logical flow is absolutely the key to building a case that's powerful and super easy to follow. Now, that structure we just talked about, that's the skeleton. It's absolutely essential, but it's not the whole picture. To really nail it, you need what we'll call professional authenticity. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. That's what brings the whole thing to life and builds trust. And here's the crucial thing. These are all skills you can learn. Slowing down your pace helps people absorb what you're saying. Using a formal register keeps it professional. Using transitions makes it all flow smoothly. You know, this isn't just about sounding good. It's about building trust. When you speak clearly with a steady, confident tone, your audience just naturally trusts that you know your stuff. Here's a perfect little example of connecting ideas. Just listen to the difference in the flow. Words like antecedent trauma and persistent and unremitting, they aren't just fancy substitutes. They're the language of a professional story, linking ideas together smoothly and creating this really authoritative vibe. And here's a final, super practical tip for you. Practice timing your presentation. Seriously,
Aiming for a tight 3 to 5 minute delivery, it forces you to be disciplined. It makes you cut out all the fluff and focus only on what is absolutely critical. It's a fantastic trick for achieving clarity.
So we've diagnosed the problem, we've prescribed the treatment. Now, let's see the final result. This is the transformation. This is what happens when we go from that confusing mess we heard at the beginning to a polished, professional, and powerful summary. Just listen to the clarity there. It's structured, it's chronological, and it builds to this powerful conclusion. Every single piece of information has its proper place, and it all points directly toward a probable diagnosis. This is our after photo, and the difference is, well, it's night and day. And that is really the ultimate takeaway here. This isn't just about passing a medical exam. A logical structure is what turns raw data into a compelling story. It's how you take a pile of confusing facts and turn them into undeniable clarity, whether you're in a boardroom, a courtroom, or even a classroom. So the next time you have to explain something complex, something important, remember this: the principles are exactly the same, whether you're in a clinic or a conference room. So the question I'll leave you with is this: how are you going to structure your next critical presentation to turn that potential confusion into absolute clarity?